there everybody, this is Robin, and today's video is going to be the read alouds for our next homeschool year. So welcome back to Creative2xmom. This channel is all about homeschooling, parenthood, and thriving in the day-to-day. I hope you find a lot of good inspiration on this channel, and I want to encourage you to hit the subscription button down below. Today's video is going to be about our read aloud picks for the next homeschool year. Now this video is in collaboration with a bunch of other YouTubing homeschool mamas, so I will leave the link for the playlist down below. You guys know that I love incorporating read alouds into our homeschool time. This has been something that we have done all throughout our parenting journey, even before we were homeschoolers. So books are a really big part of our lifestyle. So I have a couple of different categories of books that I want to hit next year. This was originally going to be our 10 read alouds for the 2021-22 homeschool year, but as I was making my list, I think I came up with 15. I just couldn't help myself. There are some great books out there. Now my other disclaimer is that this is the plan for next year, but I realized sometimes we get into a series or sometimes books will pop out for us on the library shelf and we just can't help ourselves but getting off track just a little bit. And speaking of getting off track, our first two books that we will be reading for the homeschool year were actually not something that I had in mind of reading at all to my kids. They're on my Kindle, so I will insert pictures of the title page of both of them. But over, I think it was May, we happened to say, okay, let's try The Green Ember, and we loved it so much that we're now in book 2 of the series, almost done with it, and I think we're going to continue on with books 3 and 4. So the first two books on our read aloud list are Ember Rising and The Ember's End. Now this series was a total surprise for me. I happened to get The Green Ember for free, the Kindle edition, and I just thought, okay, we'll try it. It's listed as for ages 8 through 12, so I didn't know if my kids would be very interested in it. Didn't know a whole lot about it. Knew a lot of people loved it. Didn't know much about the series. We were so fascinated with book 1 that we decided to go ahead and purchase the rest of the series, and that's really unusual for me. Most of the time I'm like, if I find it used or if I find it at the library, we go for it. But this series is so well done that we have been loving every last second of it. So the next two books are going to be books 3 and book 4 in the Ember series. Now we always have lots of good history books in our read aloud list. That is one of the things we use Story of the World as our history curriculum, and then from there I will pull either folk tales off their suggested reading or some sort of historical fiction. So I have 4 in that category this year. Not sure if I put these in the right order of where they will come, but the first one we have is Maru of the Winter Caves. I was excited to find this one because it's so hard to find prehistorical fiction, and I happened to find it on a book list somewhere. I'm not even sure if this one was in Story of the World. Maybe. It's a book I've never read before. It's about a young girl and how she is going about trying to save her family. We have The Bronze Bow by Elizabeth George Spear. This is an author that we love. We've read her, what is the one? Oh, Sign of the Beaver. We've read that before. It's one of my absolute favorites. We have The Golden Goblet. Then we also have Casting the Gods Adrift. Now I'm not positive we will read this because I feel like we read it last time we did volume 1, but I'm thinking that even if we have, it's probably been long enough that we can revisit it. I forgot, I have one other book in the history category, and that is Hittite Warrior. I've never read this one, but on almost every book list that I have found for the ancient history, this one is recommended, so I'm going to pick that one up when we get to it. And the rest of these books are just because books, and so if there is any category that I might possibly cut from, it would probably be this category, but some of them are a lot thinner than I thought they were going to be, so I'm hoping that we get through the rest of these. First one I have is Treasure Island, absolute classic. I took an online course over the summer that was about classic children's literature, and this is one that they did the overview of. I know that I want to read it, so even if the kids don't get completely intrigued, this one will probably go on my personal reading list. There's just something about that classic children's literature. We have My Side of the Mountain. Yes, this is a part of the series, but I think we will just read this one. We've read the entire series in the past, and I like the others, but I don't feel like they live up to the first book. So we're going to be reading that one. This is by Jean Greighead George. Now the other thing is, I have also added Ice Whale by the same author. I wasn't able to get it from the library right now, but I picked it up a while back, brought it home just so I could flip through it. It looks like a really good book that my kids would enjoy. They have enjoyed this one in the past, and so we're going to add Ice Whale to our list. Next we have The Magician's Elephant by Creative2xmom. This is an author that we love. We've read The One and Only Bob. We've read a few of her other books. I think she's the one that writes Flora and Ulysses, which is absolutely hilarious if you've ever read that book. And it looked a little bit smaller than I thought, so I said, oh, okay, let's go ahead and add that one. Then we have The Peacemaker. This is by Joseph Buchac, B-U-C-H-A-C. I don't know a whole lot about this one. I should have flipped through it a little bit more, but it's a 12-year-old boy, and they're out hunting and they're kidnapped. As long as this reads like prose, then I'm going to be okay with it. If it's a little bit more poetic, we may not read it, because I find that books that are written very poetic don't read aloud as well. They're still great books, but it's hard to get that same rhythm of a read aloud. They've been kidnapped, and they are trying to bring together tribal unity, I think, from there. Remember hearing that this one was really good. Another book is The Wind in the Willows. Now, I personally read this one in the month of June. Again, it was one of those that we went over in classic literature, and I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. It's nothing my kids have ever read before. It's nothing I thought I would ever be interested in, but it's one of those that I don't want them to miss in that children's literature category. I have two more books left, both that I'm going to grab from our library when we get to them. The first one is Peter Nimble and His Fantastic Eyes. Now they say don't judge a book by its cover, but the cover on this one is beautiful, and this book was recommended by Sodbuster Living, so I quickly added it to our Read Aloud list for the next year. And the last book that we're going to be reading is Midsummer's Mayhem. It's about a famous chef. He comes home from this mysterious trip and he's lost his sense of taste, and it's his daughter trying to figure out what is behind him losing sort of his powers to rise above in his profession. So I thought that one was kind of interesting. It's a little bit of a different take. It's a storyline that I've never heard before. A lot of these books are coming from storylines that I never would have imagined. Peacemaker, I think, is going to be really good. I'm actually really looking forward to that one. Midsummer's Mayhem, Ice Whale. There's so many books on this list that looked really fantastic that I was having a hard time narrowing it down. So that is our reading list. That's our plan of attack. That's where we're headed with our read alouds for the next year. Of course, like I said, if we decide to veer off and do something else, then that's perfectly acceptable. These will just rotate around to the following year. That's sort of what happened with Treasure Island. It was supposed to be on our read aloud list for the past year, and we're just moving it on to the next year. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some really great ideas of books to read with your kids. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you would add to your read aloud list. Also, don't forget to check out the description box down below for that playlist of other mamas who will have some great book recommendations as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time. Bye guys.